Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the newest episode of the Theater Enthusiast podcast. I feel like I need to be like very intellectual in this moment. I don't, maybe it's because you're an audiobook person. I'm so excited to welcome back this person. I told her I feel like she and I need to be best friends. When I first interviewed you back in December, I wanted to talk to you more, but we were on a time constraint and there was somebody else that we were also chatting with. But
Yeah.
please welcome the multi-award winner for all of her audio stuff. She's an actor. She's a director. She does audiobooks. She directs audiobooks. She produces an audiobook. What else do you do? She has a book series. She does all of these things, you guys, and we're going to talk about it all. Please welcome. I almost said Zabra.
Gabra Zackman.
Yeah,
Well,
Zabra
remember when we
Jackman.
all used to do that? That we all
Oh,
used to
really?
introduce ourselves by switching the letter of the first and last name. So I was often Gabra Zackman.
So I would be Taliesin Annie.
Yeah, not bad.
Oh, there we go.
Not
Well,
terrible.
I'm sorry I Adele Dazeemed your name.
No, I loved it. I love that you did it. It's
Yeah.
perfect. I love it.
Well, the correct pronunciation is Gabra Zackman. So applause. I know that like over Zoom you can't hear things, but you want to hype it like woo woo, welcome to the podcast again. Woo, woo, woo,
Thank
woo.
you so much for having me back. I'm excited to see how much we can cram in about how many different topics in this window that we have.
Oh, I feel like we should just keep a tally, or those listening at home. Just
All right, keep it tally. Do a shot. Can we make
yeah,
everyone do a shot every time we switch topic?
yeah,
We'll have
shot of anything. Also, if you do that, no drinking and driving.
Yeah, no, definitely not. But like in the privacy of your own home, if
Yeah.
you're a drinker with no problems drinking, pull out a
Maybe
bottle.
I mean I will drink out of my hot priest mug as I normally do. And it does say Neil on the back.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it.
I still have my hot priest candle and I used to light it every podcast so he could bless the podcast. And
Oh,
I used to announce that in the early days of the podcast, but I can't like reach in anymore to light it. So
yes.
he just exists on my bookshelf next to a prayer candle of Timothy Chalamet that was given to me as a
Oh,
gift.
oh, good. So good. Perfect.
Yeah. Oh, Timothy Chalamet. I just watched Wonka the other day. It was delightful.
Oh, how nice. I've not seen it. Is it delightful?
It is so delightful. And I
Oh.
was like, oh, it's Timothy Chalamet. Great. And like Hugh Grant just being an Oompa Loompa. And I
Okay, so
messaged my friend, I'm like, how much money you think he was given to play this part?
okay, so get this. I
Yeah.
was the Bay Area. I had gone to LA and then to Northern California. There was a big audiobook ceremony, which we're welcome to talk about or not, that was in LA. It was very fun to walk a red carpet. I won with a group of narrators for this multicast. It was very exciting. And then I went to Northern California to be with my brother and his family. And my brother's kid had a field day at school where we went to the Oakland Museum. I haven't been to a field day in, 40 years. Um, Field day, that's what it's called, right? Field day. Yeah. Um, Field trip. That's it. My goodness, field day, field trip.
Mhm.
And first of all, I was exhausted because I was with a group of, I guess, fourth and fifth graders, maybe. So I haven't done that in a long time, and I was exhausted. That said, it was a delightful day, but the
Yeah.
day didn't end there. The day continued with their first read through of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh, wow.
And they were missing people, and I got to read in as Oompa Loompa number two and a couple of other sundry roles. It was fabulous. It was one of
You
my
get to
absolute.
use your skills as an audiobook voice actor.
Well, their drama teacher, who was spectacular, who turned out to be like an old friend of one of my friends in the audiobook biz, which was such a great moment where he was like, "Wait, you know her? You wait, what?" Um, Kept saying like, "We have a professional here in the class, kids." So, which just made me laugh every time he said. My brother and I were like rolling on the floor because I was like, "Yeah, okay, let me use my skills for Oompa Loompa number two." But that said, the kids
And
were terrific, and it was delightful. The whole day was delightful, but then
it,
exhausting. I was meeting a friend for dinner that night, and I had to actually take a full on like hour-long nap in between because they exhausted me.
well, it's so funny because we were talking about age before we started, and I'm a lady of a certain age, and I still like take naps before I do things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, napping is great.
Yeah, and that I think will increase as you become a lady of an older age. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm considerably your senior, and the nap has only become more treasured.
You're only 21 plus. What are you talking about? Uh, so no, it's fine because like in my youth, I couldn't take naps because then I couldn't fall asleep at night. But now I'm just like, I'm always tired, taking a nap. I take a nap before, like I've taken naps before I go to bed. Like I'll take a nap, wake up, get ready for bed, and then go to bed.
Well, right. Sometimes I come home depending, and sometimes I've had a drink and sometimes I haven't. Sometimes I'm just tired, and I'll sometimes just fall asleep on my couch.
Yeah, I've done that too.
Sleep so well for a couple of hours, and then get up and get ready, and then go to bed.
It's the importance of a good couch. See the couch behind me, which you can't see. There it is.
Oh,
Um, she's new. I named him Martha, but you have to pronounce it like that. She's the
Arthur.
most comfortable couch because I had when I first moved in here, my old roommate gave me her old couch, which was great because it saved me money on a couch, but it was so uncomfortable, that couch. And I had it for like 2 years. But now I have Martha and she's a Serta. She's she's
Felix.
Serta amazing.
Serta, amazing, certifiable. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have a futon that I lived in Denver for a couple of years, and when I was living there, I did all this research to find what would be the most comfortable futon I could get so that when I eventually moved somewhere, maybe there, maybe West Coast, maybe East Coast, I didn't know at the time when I moved and I wound up moving back to New York, but I was like, I'm going to need it to be my sofa. So I want something really good and I'm willing to pay a lot of money. So I did all this research. And
Mhm.
invariably, everyone online said the same things. They said, get the $350 IKEA futon, which I slept on for 2 years, which is in my living room today. I have to say, it is so comfortable. I actually slept on it not too long ago because I got a new bed that needed to be like aired out, a
Mm.
bed in a box. And I slept on this and I was like, this bed is still comfortable. It's now been years. Now it's been 12 years since I bought it.
I also have a bed in a box. Why are we the same person, Gabra?
it,
Birthday.
and we have the same birthday. That's right. We did that
Yeah.
just before this. We have the same birthday.
You. And that's where we discovered Capricorn's age backwards, you guys. So Helen Mirren sexy coming your way.
That's right. And we get more fun also. We get more fun.
I mean, I've always been that way, NBD, but not to toot my own.
I was not. I was very, very serious and very studious growing up.
I think, it might be opposite. I'm definitely like, I think with age too, I've become more bitter and cynical. That's the Miranda in me from Sex and the City. But I can be like serious when I need to be, but I'm a giant goofball.
Love
With
it.
my mind. I am.
Love
Anyway,
it.
so let's go back to you. You were on the podcast back in December talking about I'm going to butcher the name, but I wrote it down, the inheritance of a long-term fault. So we kind of touched a little bit about where you're from. You grew up around New York, you're from New York. So normally what I ask people is what got them into theater, and then we talk about their education. So in my research of you before we started, as I like light a fake cigarette,
Yes.
um, you said that you didn't think that performing you would end up being your career.
True.
So, do you want to talk like what got you into performing and what made you think that, and then what kind of shifted where you're doing all of these amazing things? Because with you, and you've talked about it, doing audiobooks because you've done over 500 of them, you produce them, you direct them, you teach how to do audiobooks, you got big audiobook lady, you have awards for them. So that's also kind of like a performance in a way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I would say that when I was around 16 and I grew up in Westchester and I
Mhm.
was living there, but I took some acting classes. I always loved the theater, and I took some acting classes at the Bank Street Playhouse when I was 16. And I remember I loved the classes. I loved that place also. It felt like something from a whole different time and from a whole different world. And I remember hearing the actors outside talking about their careers, and they would all talk about how they couldn't get a job and how they were like barely making ends meet, and I just thought, what a stupid thing to do with your life.
Mhm.
So I did everything I could not to do that because I thought that's so stupid. What a stupid thing to do with your life where you can't ever get a job and like have to work all these other jobs just to get the job that you want. And it always ends. And so when I initially was in college, my first couple of years, I was studying some other stuff. I was studying psychology and art history.
Let's also talk about how you went to Northwestern University. You have a BA from there.
I
I bring
did.
that up because my younger sister is also a Northwestern graduate.
Oh, really? Oh, that's awesome.
She
Congratulations.
went to she went to Medill the for journalism.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah, and she then went to get her master's degree with Northwestern, and now she is a reporter for News 12 Brooklyn and the Bronx. So check her
Oh,
out if you.
that is wicked cool. And I will check her out. That's awesome. I super love that. I was at Oberlin my freshman year.
Mhm.
Then I was in London
Oh,
independently, like going to the University of London, University College, for a year, and then transferred to Northwestern my last couple of years. And both when I was at Oberlin and when I was in London, I was dabbling, I was playing around with a bunch of different things. And then transferred to Northwestern into the theater department. So by that time, I was like, all I ever do is theater. All I want to do is theater. I had so fallen in love with it at that point that I couldn't imagine doing anything else.
mhm.
Um, so went to Northwestern for my last couple of years. Absolutely loved it. Um, was in Chicago for a year after, and then got like a children's theater tour, which sort of took me back to New York.
Mhm.
Walked into New York like I'm here and I'm ready, and had all these plans, and then it was just a mess here. It's just so difficult to be a young actor here, But so I went back to went to grad school when I was 26, and then came out of that still thinking, now I'll never work again. Why did I even bother doing that? And then wound up with a not half bad career in regional theater.
Mhm.
Then in my early 30s, audiobooks. I was at the time, I started recording audiobooks while I was still catering. So I was doing both of those things at the same time. I did a lot of waiting tables and catering. And and through a friend who I had done a show with, the world of audiobooks opened up to me. That's Jonathan Davis, who should be credited as the originator of my career. 100% great friend, great person in the industry. And we had been
You
doing
thank him in your award-winning speeches when you're like, this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That would be him. We did a production of Taming of the Shrew together down at the Georgia Shakespeare Festival. And while we were working there together, he said, he said, I do this thing and everyone always asks me about it. It's audiobooks. And I didn't even know what they were at the time. Like I was like, they're what are they? Who does what? And he said, you've never actually asked me about it, but you're the right material for it. You've got the right voice, you've got the right spirit, you've got the right energy. You're the
What do
right
you
kind.
think makes somebody good for an audiobook or a voiceover? And I ask this because I have a couple of younger siblings, and one
Mm,
of them is about to graduate high school. And she has spoken to me before about wanting to do like voiceover stuff.
yeah.
So, and I said, I have a friend. This was before you and I have chatted and become BFFs now. Um, and she just like she likes the idea of it. And then she's 17, so she goes like in and out of like what she wants to do. But I said, like, have a conversation with my friend. Like I spoke to her. She said, you should reach out. She never did. So if somebody wants to go into that field, how would you recommend them starting?
Such a great question. And over the years, I've been in it now for about 20 years. And over these years, the way that the business has moved and shifted and changed has been profound.
Yeah.
And the way all of them, each voiceover field is its own field.
Yeah.
So audiobooks for me are what I have done now for nigh on 20 years. But there's commercial voiceover,
Mhm.
there's animation, there's promo, there's video games, there's a wide span of what voiceover is. So the first thing that I would recommend is just look online. Google things like, you know, people talking about like who does which voiceovers, how many voiceover fields are there, what is voiceover. There's a bunch of free resources that one would find online.
Mhm.
One of the ones I love best in the audiobook world that I always direct people to is a site called that a friend of mine set up called narratorsroadmap.com. And that's basically an assortment of free informational sites that lead on to then my friend Karen's platform, which is like a greater site for exploration of the career, both for authors and for narrators.
Mhm.
It's a really brilliant site, but there's stuff like that all over the place. And then I would say, like, if it's possible, I mean, sometimes people do a survey course of, what voiceover is. I try to do that whenever I teach like an intro class. I try to talk about all of the fields and
Mhm.
then say, now I'm going to talk about audiobooks, which is mine. But a survey course is a great idea. Or if somehow it's like, God, I always wanted to do video games, find out who does it, find out who, and look online and make sure it's not a hack, make sure it's someone who's like done a ton of it, who knows what it's about, who's not in like teaching just to make money, but is teaching to pass on their valuable craft while
Mhm.
also earning themselves a living. Um, but that's what I would say is like target, find who does it, but first get to know what the industry is and which industry in particular appeals to you, and then find who teaches that and take a class with them, you know?
Yeah. It's very good because, like you said, there are so many different avenues to go to. And I only know like you now and my friend who does audiobooks. So, and I know that there's, commercial, there's voices, there's this, there's that. So there's so many different avenues. And that's an important thing for people to know because sometimes they hear voiceover and they just think, oh, it's everything, or it's one thing or one person can do everything, but it's not necessarily that.
Well, and also it depends what market you're in. So for people who are in the larger markets, which would be obviously New York and LA, but maybe also I don't know if Chicago's this way also. Um, we are, because it's such a large market, voiceover is segmented into who does what.
Mm.
Commercial voiceover, promo, video games, animation, audiobooks, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Um, in smaller places, like, for example, a place like Denver, I think probably also a place like Atlanta would be my guess. Like, these are actually great regional markets. Some of the Texas markets, some of the like smaller markets locally, you can do everything and you should.
Yeah.
Those are also a lot of them, at least you'd start out being non-union, or you'd have you would begin that way at least so that you could get a wide, and now at this point, people all over the country are doing work all over the country because of the internet and because of this and that. So like things like this have a little bit shifted and changed and moved, but there certainly are still regional markets, and there certainly are still different relationships one has with a regional market,
Yeah.
a local actor in a regional market. So the first thing I would say is like where you are, look at where you are first, rather than looking to like national or global or larger markets. Look to your own market first and find out what you can find and see if that's a stepping stone to more information and more access.
Yeah. So somebody who's been in the field for so long and for somebody who also teaches, how hard is it for, I guess, somebody newer to this market to get into it?
To get into audiobooks?
Yeah.
Well, it's an interesting question at an interesting time, because at one time this was a real niche market.
Mhm.
When I got into it, it was niche. And when I say niche, I mean there wasn't that much of it. It was still called books on tape. It was really just before the internet exploded and everything became downloadable.
Yeah.
So first it was books on tape, then it was books on CD, and then it was downloadable material. And suddenly everything changed and is continuing to. So at one time, I would have said it was nearly impossible to get into. Then I would have said there was some real possibility. And now, again, I feel like it's kind of an over flooded market of a lot of newer people, not necessarily younger, but newer people which means that, is it possible to sort of find your way in somehow? Of course. But is it also now becoming an oversaturated market? Of course. So I would say for someone who's interested, what I tell people, if you're interested in getting into audiobooks, number one, go to the site I just mentioned, narratorsroadmap.com. It's a great resource. Number two, listen to audio, listen to audiobooks. So go on Audible, listen to free samples,
Mhm.
listen to as many people as you can listen to. Get a better sense of where you think your own voice lies or what your desires are. Because within the audiobook world, it's also fragmented or segmented in terms of who does what. Some people do romance and have huge careers in romance, some in fantasy and have huge careers in fantasy, some in nonfiction, some in classic fiction, some do a mix of this or that or this or that.
Yeah.
But a sense of where your voice lies, and then make sure you can access that material. And then there's a couple different things. There's like traditional publishers and how you get in with those people. That's its own
Mhm.
thing. And that's also what's the word? There are steps to that, right? Because there are smaller publishers, there are indie publishers, smaller publishers, blah, 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 blah.
Mhm.
But then, in addition, there's relationships that people have with indie authors where you might hook up with an indie author who really likes your voice, who's writing all the time, and you might independently produce with you as the narrator. They're into all of their books. I just met for the first time. I was in New Orleans to celebrate my birthday, and I met for the first time an author I've been working with for about 10 years.
Oh, wow.
I have done about 50 of her books because I do about 5 books a year, and she's awesome. And her books are awesome. That's Deanna Chase, if you want to check her out. It's all like witches. It's like witch rom-coms, basically.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, she's so fun. And she's such a fun person. I just immediately, she was like, I had the same reaction to her. I met her and I was like, and you are my BFF. She's just so
Oh,
cool.
wait, my reaction that I had when I first met you.
Exactly. That's what I mean. It was
Mhm.
my reaction upon meeting her after I'd already done 50 of her books was, oh my God, you're clearly my BFF. But like with her, she is someone who I've now worked with independently on independent platforms for
Mhm.
10 years time. So
Yeah.
that also happens often where some narrators have relationships with indie authors.
Yeah.
So the paths to either meet publishers, producers,
Mhm.
or authors are many and varied. That's kind of like an interesting web. But again, the whole thing has become like much more possible and much more saturated all at the same time. But like the very idea, I will use this opportunity to rail against something, but the very idea that people publicize, which is like, if you get a microphone and if you have a nice voice, you can make so much money so easily. That is just, that is a horrible fiction that makes my skin crawl. The reason why it's a horrible fiction is because like the technical elements of it and learning how all of the tech works and figuring all that out is a lifetime of work in and of itself. That's like people go to school to learn how to do that. So the tech of it is one thing. Learning what equipment works for you is another thing. Making a space that's actually possible in your own home if you're not going into studios is yet another thing. And then let's not forget about what it is to have craft and
Mhm.
the craft of a storyteller, which
Yeah.
is very, very important for me because this is not something where you just have a nice voice. It's something where you're telling a long form story and it is athletic. It's like marathon like athletic.
Yeah. I
How was
just,
that good? Was that a good like soapbox rant? Was it
yeah,
good? Did I do it?
excellent.
Did I do
Yeah,
it well?
I am very into this book. It's like my current The Idea of You right now, and the movie's coming out, and I just read the audiobook. The author did the audiobook, and she's also an actor. So the storytelling through the audiobook, and that book killed me at the end. I mean, it's a romance novel.
Oh,
Spoilers. But
can't wait to read it slash or listen to it. That sounds wonderful.
and the movie's coming out in the beginning of next month and whatever. So I'm not a huge audiobook person, but I was like, I need to listen to this audiobook because people are going crazy over it. And I like cried at the end of the book or the audiobook. Well,
Oh, yeah. I'll get the audiobook too, because to be honest with you, I don't listen to a ton of them. Like I listen to a bunch of audio here and there because I like to hear what are people doing or what did this happen or how did that sound or how is this multicast? But for the most part, I'm a reader. That's how I take in story. And so it's a little hard for me to take it in orally.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna get that book because I have another book that I promised a friend I would listen to also. I'm gonna buy myself a couple of audiobooks as little.
I I joined the Libby app so I can listen to it for free because I'm like, I don't want to
Yay!
spend 20 bucks on an audiobook that I'm like probably going to listen to once. But it's so funny that you bring that up because I have this podcast. I'm not a big podcast listener. I mean, I've listened to some, but I don't have one that I listen to regularly all the time. And the irony is that I have a podcast. So let's talk a little bit more about the acting journey that you had. So you got your MFA from I wrote it down, I promise, the Academy of Classical Acting at the Shakespeare Theater in DC. So
Yeah.
you're also
With George Washington University. There's like another piece of it with George Washington University. It's such a long name, it's ridiculous.
Gabra, we are like so cosmically connected because my older sister went to George Washington University.
Hey, seriously?
I shit you not. She went for poli sci and then she got her master's and now
Oh, to
she's like
remember what years was she there? That would be a fun thing to ask.
she started in 2002.
Oh, so she and I were there right around the same time because I
Yeah.
was there in 2001.
Oh wow. Yeah. So she
2002.
was
2001 to 2000. Nope, I'm sorry, I lied. I was there from 2000 to 2001. So
okay.
she and
So
I just missed each other.
yeah. But she
Oh,
didn't do
that's
the
awesome.
acting thing. She political science.
Oh, so
And
cool.
I don't want to give out her resume on the podcast because that's not a good
But
idea.
that's a great place to have done. George Washington U is a great place to have done poli sci. Good for her. That's smart.
She did she dabbled in the
Like a smart.
political
Does she have like a
event.
political smart job now? What does she do?
She's a lawyer.
Oh, she does have a political smart job.
Yeah,
I mean,
she's a
depending on what.
partner. She actually became a partner in her law firm before she hit 40, which is amazing.
Wow.
And she's extremely hard worker and it was very, very well deserved. So she does I don't want to talk too much about her job because I don't think I'm
Oh,
supposed to or should, but she's working on a case that's been a couple of years of working on where people are still owed money. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
God
Maybe I'll tell
bless.
you off, maybe I'll tell you off podcast, but not on.
Okay, yeah,
I
bless. Wow.
yeah. So anyway, enough about my family and how I'm the theater one out of everyone. You have the reporter, you have the finance person, you have a lawyer, you have two that are about to graduate high school, then there's me.
Why are there so many? That are you
My
just?
parents are divorced, so when they remarried, they
I
had
see. So it's
yeah,
my it's from blended family. There's that many.
kind of yeah. So my joke is like when I get married, I don't need bridesmaids, but let me go on a date first. So if there's any good-looking single straight guys out there, holler. I'm
Somehow don't think they'd necessarily be listening to this podcast, but God bless if they
I
are.
know
Let's
it's okay. My cousin said to me a few years ago, she's like, "Why don't you meet a guy who likes Disney and theater?" And I said, "A gay man? Like, what do you?"
seriously.
Yeah,
But good idea.
yeah.
Yes.
I either say they're all either like gay taken or both, and then somebody said, "Or an asshole," and I said, "Or that," you know.
That's well
Yeah.
said. That narrows it down slightly. Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. Okay. Wait,
Anyway,
let's see.
so
We're getting off top. Hashtag off topic.
take your shots.
Take your shots, everyone.
You're drinking and driving. So you have your MFA now from the Shakespeare DC area.
That's right.
And then what happens then? What do you decide to do? Because you have a lot of regional credits, you have a lot of New York theater, you also have a lot of film and TV credits. So how does one start their career like right after you're getting your MFA?
Yeah, such a good question. So I am pre MFA. I sort of just came to New York and tried everything. It was also like it was a different time of the world, right? So pounding the pavement was still kind of a real thing. I mean, I remember putting it was pre-internet-ish.
Mhm.
So I remember putting like mailing. We did mailings at the time where we had like the pictures and the hedge. I don't think you do this now, but tell me if you did. This will absolutely date me. do you do the stapled pieces of paper to the headshots ever?
Okay. Here's the thing. I haven't had to staple a headshot to a resume since I graduated college because I have not gone in that direction, which, yeah, and I still have my old headshot. So if anybody wants an old headshot of me at like 22 years old, please let me know. I'll sign it and send it to you. Um, But when I was graduating college, we had to do the mailing where you had to go to the drama bookshop and you had to buy the book with all of the people. And
Yes.
then you had to get your headshot and your resume and stapled together. I actually ended up not mailing anything out because I was just busy and never did. So
Okay, but question for you. Let's talk details.
yeah.
Did you get the resumes printed on 8 by 10 paper, or did you hand cut?
I think because I printed it from my own printer, I had to hand cut it.
See, so you did it old school. This is what I'm asking. Like the old
I
school,
don't know what they
they
do now. I mean,
cutting,
maybe,
they just now everything's emailed. Literally
yeah.
everything. Like I think every once in a blue moon, but now I can, like, on my printer, I can just print directly to the back of a headshot, right? I can print my resume right on the back of my headshot.
I will say that during the pandemic, when I was directing these virtual play readings, we did have some actors who wanted to somehow be involved with it, and they would email us their headshots and resumes. So, like unknown people, I wouldn't know if I
Right.
fell on them, would message the company that we developed and we were doing these readings for, and I have like all of their headshots and resumes. But I don't, I haven't pursued it, so I don't really know how that works nowadays. And
That's
if
pretty much what people do. I mean, people email headshots and resumes,
yeah.
or if every once in a blue moon, someone will ask for a hard copy, which I've not been asked in years, but friends of mine are like every once in a while. And if someone asked me for a hard copy, I mean, people have needed for me hard copies for like theater boards when I've done theater. They've
Yeah,
definitely used for that. So I have a handful of them.
yeah.
If people needed a hard copy, and with a resume, I would just print it out on my
So
print.
it's I should ask somebody who like does audition, like going into a room, how that works. Because I don't know how that would work now. Because back in the day, you would like bring your headshot and resume with you into an audition, but I don't know if people still do that.
Well,
I need to
a lot of people do first auditions. I mean, I think
like,
most
yeah.
first auditions are filmed, even if they're for theater.
There is
Callback
somebody
callbacks
who,
are often in a room.
yeah. There is somebody, well, there are two people I now know that are on the Broadway. And
Yeah,
one of them, I'm seeing their play at the end of the month, but I'll just text them like the day I'm going. And I'd be
yeah.
curious to know what their audition was like because they're in like a pretty big play. They're in Patriots, which is
Oh,
kind
that's
of
awesome. Yeah, I would
like a
ask.
school board.
I would ask like how many. I would ask how many callbacks they had for it.
Yeah.
I would
I can
ask.
just text them, be like, hey, I know you're in your show right now, but I'm in a
That's
podcast
okay.
interview and we had all of these questions. Like,
I would
what
ask
is
if
the
like
deal?
if they did the initial audition via video, which is what
Yeah.
most of my friends are telling me, that they did the
Mhm.
initial audition via video um and then the callbacks in person.
Yeah.
Like how
See, I
many
say
were.
this person, but I like don't know them that well enough to like get away with asking them certain things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I could ask about 17 friends of mine or more. We could
Yeah.
just put it up right now and just be like, hey, hive mind.
Hey, what's
Who's
up, yo? So when this podcast comes out and you're listening, like DM us. I'm at Theater Enthusiast Podcast. Gabra's at
But let's see, you can find my website, which is my name,
Mhm.
gabrazackman.com. Might be easier to find it through audiobookgoddess.com. It goes to the same space, or
Mhm.
gabrazackmanauthor.com. That's different, but who cares? It's the same. I mean, they're just like, it's all me. It's all coming to me.
Also, yeah, you could check out my website too. It's a really nice website and I worked very hard on it. It's theater and it's the what is it? It's the theaterenthusiastsite.com.
Yeah,
I
I'm gonna
worked
have,
really hard on it. The theaterenthusiastsite.com.
yeah.
Gabriel's face will appear on it. I think it's already there in the graphic I made. It's a good site. I worked hard on it. And I say that because that was my first time like figuring out how to design a website and I think I did a fucking great job at
I can't wait. I'm gonna check it out myself.
you.
That's
And
awesome.
it's like purple and pink and blue. No, not blue, and black and white. It's all the things. Anyway, so we do have a few more minutes left before you need to like work on our audiobook stuff. So, for being a working actor in New York, how does one go about surviving all of these years being a working actor? Because, like I said, you have a lot of credits. You also have a lot of regional credits, which, speaking not to name drop, but when I spoke to Leslie Margarita a while back, we talked about the importance of regional theater and how some
Ah,
people think that just because you're not like on Broadway or you're not doing like certain things in New York makes you less than, but it doesn't.
no, no.
Yeah.
I think for me, when I was doing a bunch of regional theater, because there was a stretch of time in there when I did a lot of it. And how did I get it? I mean, I got it the way people got jobs at the time, which was that I met casting directors who called me in regularly.
Mhm.
So that's really what happened, is that I invariably developed relationships with casting directors who called me in, or my
Mhm.
friends in the industry continued to get far enough ahead to be the playwrights, the directors, the artistic directors who would call me in. So I think this whole business is about building relationships
Mhm.
right from the very beginning, right from young, building
I
relationship.
also think it's very important that you are kind to people
Yeah.
because I bring this up a lot that there is a certain actor who I was a very big fan of, and they were a replacement in one of my favorite musicals, and they were a replacement in a show I was doing Broadway merch at, and I went up to them at a party and I said, you know, you're in one of my favorite musicals, like people don't get over that, and they were such an asshole to me.
Hmm.
They were such an asshole. And like I've never forgotten that. And it put such a bad taste in my mouth. And when these like virtual play readings came around, we were talking about casting, I would always be like, we are not even going to offer this person anything, even if they're right for the role. They were such a fucking asshole to me. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And like people, like front of house people know, front of house people talk. And I only say this based on my own experience. Like, just be kind to people. Like, there's no, like, you're not better than anybody else. You're like, you're a fucking replacement. And so, like, calm down.
Yeah. Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, I think sometimes about there were a bunch of people who I went to Northwestern with who were awesome and who turned out, but who were probably, when I think back to some of them, maybe they were shy or maybe they were not quite as like, here I am, as like other people who were doing theater. And a
Mhm,
lot of those people turned out to be like our directors, our casting directors, our artistic directors. Like they
yeah,
ultimately turned out to be like people with a lot more power. And
mhm,
I was always so grateful that I was always so kind to people, because those people, a lot of those people who I just treated with kindness but were shy, turned
mhm.
out to be people with a lot of power.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
never know. And that's also something too that Leslie pointed out because she said that she was like she did a concert for someone at like 54 Below who was producing a concert who ended up like was a merch person at Matilda, and they like thought of her because of like she was so nice to them and all that stuff. You know what I
Whoa.
mean?
Yeah, well,
So
it is about, I mean, like that's the best thing to say to anyone, I think, is that this is a business about building relationships. It's been the same in the audiobook world as well. Like a lot of the
yeah.
people who I get work from are
Mhm,
people who became friends and who I knew when they were quite young and who perhaps I recommended them to someone who gave them a job. And so now oftentimes if they can, if something's appropriate, they'll give me a job, you know?
yeah,
It's how business works best, when it's built on like mutually beneficial, trustworthy, kind relationships.
I agree. So we're
Yeah.
gonna do the inside the actor studio questions now. Are you
Yeah,
ready?
I am. I'm so excited.
Okay.
Okay.
Should I do my Will Ferrell, James Lipton? Okay.
Yes.
What is your favorite word?
um, God, I wasn't prepared for these. And now I want,
Not many people are, and it's great.
no, it's so good, because the thing that came to mind, I'm like feeling bad about what the word is because I'm such a
You
wordsmith.
shouldn't, and it'll come back to you at some point. And if and when a show we discuss does come back and you and Craig want to come back on to talk about it,
Greg is so cool. I'd love to have him. He's a dear friend, and like I would love to do another
Maybe
podcast.
the three of us should go out for a drink to like finally meet in person and be like, remember that 25-minute interview that we did?
That's right. Yeah. That in the midst of like us, like deer in headlights in the midst of that show. By the way, the show, wait a minute. Can we stop for a minute? Is
Yeah,
it
of
possible?
course.
Like,
Yeah, no, go
like
talk.
rewind and then I'll tell you my favorite word. Okay.
Do your thing, girl.
Let's rewind. The rewind is to say that we're still working on the inheritance of a long-term fault. I meant to say that we just did a couple of days in a rehearsal studio, and this was really cool. After we had a 3-week run at Theater Row,
Mhm.
that like 2 months later, a few of us who were available met in a room to talk about the show and what went right and what didn't go right and play around with new material and reconfigure. And it was like a remarkable couple of days. And so it looks like potentially there will be some more life.
That's great. And hopefully I'll get to see it this time.
Really hope you get to see it. I know I'm excited to see how it might be breathed and birthed forward into the world. Okay, so when you said what's your favorite word, the word that came to mind was fuck.
Perfect.
I'm sorry. I wish it
Don't
was.
don't apologize. That is your favorite word. Fuck it.
I
It's
know.
your
I
favorite.
do use it all the time, and I find it to be powerful and delicious.
That's fine. That could also be your favorite curse word, but we're not there yet. What is your least favorite word?
Hate.
What turns you on?
Mm, like so much. Um, Language.
What turns you off?
Close-mindedness.
What is your favorite curse word?
Let's make it something different. How
Okay,
about cunt? That's a one that has a lot of power.
perfect. What sound or noise do you love?
Laughter.
What sound or noise do you hate?
um, the construction on the street when I'm desperately trying to record an audiobook.
That's fair. What profession other than yours would you like to attempt?
Um, 100% there is like an oceanographer in me that's somewhere in the biological sciences.
I think there should be an audiobook that you read as an oceanographer. Just putting it out there.
I was going to say, I thought you were going to say like you should write an autobiography called The Oceanographer in Me, which is actually a very good title.
You know what? Maybe you should, and it won't have to do anything with oceanography.
It would be an acting book. Be a
When
book
I
about.
when I approach this role, I think, what is the oceanographer in me saying?
That's right. That's right.
I'm about to play Ophelia in Hamlet, right? That's right. Ophelia in Hamlet. That's the role. Oh my God. Okay. What profession would you not like to do?
Mm. Um, I mean, the thing that's coming to mind is politician. Like
Right.
activist, yes, politician, no.
And finally, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Your father and Sam and all of your family and friends are right over there.
And as Mr. Lipton would say, here are your students. Really quickly, because we've come to the end, I'm just curious to know if you have any top going theater experiences or any dream roles or projects you would like to work on.
Okay, meaning like revolutionary, like theater that changed my life experiences.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, some examples are seeing Once, New York Theater Workshop, and on
Uh,
Broadway. Most recently, like as of a week or two ago, it was Andrew Scott's One Man Vanya, New York Theater Live. Like I still like I can't. I'm still
oh,
convelling over it, and I just like it kills me that I can't see it anywhere anytime soon again.
that's
Um,
cool. Okay,
and then
those.
like we have Schreiber and Talk Radio and like Danny Burstein and Beth Level and Drowsy Chaperone, so like things like that, like the History Boys. I'm just naming all of mine now. The Ferryman.
No, I love that. Okay. I saw not too long ago the remount of Top Dog Underdog.
Mhm.
It was spectacular, and really did something to me. Um, what is the name of the show? I think it's coming to Broadway, but I don't know where it is right now. Is it called Goddess? That I saw in San Francisco. God, that's spectacular. You want to look out for it? Hold on. I'm gonna, I think it's called uh Goddess. Maybe it's under Goddess Musical. Let's look it up. Let's look it up on the intraweb right now.
Yeah, I'll play some music.
Yeah, Goddess it is. You want to see this. This play was remarkable. It's a play. I think they'd call it a play with music. It was very much like a musical, but spectacular piece of work. Um it was a Berkeley rep. That was brilliant. And I will say that one of my memories from so long ago, because I spent time in London when I was 18 or 19. And the thing that inspired me to really go into Shakespeare was a production of Winter's Tale. Um, was it at the National? Was it at the Barbican? I can't remember. It was at one of the big theaters, and it was, I can still see pieces of
Mhm.
it today. I can still see pieces of it in my mind, and it was 30 some years ago.
Do you have any like dream projects or roles you want to do?
Um, I would say kind of yes and no, because for me, in terms of like dream roles, I always wanted to do private lives. It's like one of the biggest ones that I always wanted to do. Um, and I've still never done Beatrice and Much Ado. I always wanted to do that one too. But I think it's more the collaboration that turns me on rather than, let's say, the specificity of the role.
Yeah.
So I would say, in terms of like like dream projects, I have so many things that I'm writing that I'm so excited about, both by myself and both with, I have a producing partner, Emily Wuzeller, and between me and Emily and Ronnie Butler, we're writing a third season of this audio, these series of audio shorts. They're sexy, saucy, funny.
Takes place in Queens,
That's
right?
right. Jason
Yeah,
Queen.
it's hold
You're
on.
right.
It's called no, I have it written down somewhere.
Yeah.
You can just say what it is. It's Nice and Naughty.
That's it.
Yeah.
So I would say that like the continuing collaboration with both those two friends of mine, as well as a larger community, because we created a whole world that we wanted it to be like the community, like everyone writes with each other and writes different tracks and different roles. So the continuing success and opening of that, like that community flourishing and like the wider community of everything we're all writing together.
Mhm.
And that's written for it's written to be by the community for the community and written about Queens, so it like it all feels very Queens. Like we wanted to write stories where it was like you're walking down the street and you're hearing snatches of different languages, and it's like everyone's a different background, different sexuality, different this, different that, and that it's all happening in the streets of Queens, and it's these sexy funny stories about New York. So um having that community thrive would be like a huge big dream of mine.
Great. Well, so now that we've come to the end, anything you want to plug, any questions, problems, concerns, life advice?
Um,
Thing?
that's what I just plugged the thing I wanted to plug. That would be Love Bites Originals.
Yeah,
That's
where
me.
can they find for those listening if they want to listen to
Nice and
Nice and
Naughty.
Naughty,
Yeah,
where can you listen to it?
Nice and Naughty or My COVID Romance.
Oh yeah.
That's multicast. So that's Love Bites Originals can be found pretty much under that on every platform. So we have a website, which is Love Bites Originals. We're under Patreon under Love Bites Originals. We're under Instagram, Love Bites Originals, Facebook, Love Bites Orig, I think on the former Twitter, now X.
Mhm.
I think that's where we find us.
Great.
And what else? What were the other questions?
Any life advice, questions for me, problems, concerns?
No problems or concerns. Life advice. Um, Life advice is uh, something along the lines of the balance between loving the fuck out of your life and finding your purpose is the goal. loving the fuck out of the life that you live, but also having purpose and some kind of purpose that hopefully serves the world as
Mm.
much as I feel like storytelling heals and serves the world, right?
Yeah.
Loving the fuck out of it plus purpose equals, in my opinion, that's the game.
Well,
Or, as I used to say with a friend, the one who dies with the best stories wins. That too.
I have a lot of those. I've been told I should write a book. Maybe I should write an audiobook back in my day. Anyway, I think that's a great place. And you can stay on when I'm done recording. Thank you those for listening. If you
Thank
listen,
you.
you know where to follow Zabra Gabman or Zab. I already messed up your Adele Dazeem name. And that's it. Well, thank you, Gabra, so much for coming on again. It was so delightful to talk to you for longer than like 5 minutes like
It's
the
my
last time.
pleasure. And I know this about you and I, but this could have been like 5 hours longer and it would not have stopped. So
Oh yeah, no, I am also a talker. So again, it's because we're apparently the same person or really like cosmically related because of our birthdays.
that's seriously, right?
All right, well, thank you so much for coming on and thank you for listening, everyone.